Goeiedag en welkom. My name is Amarinske and today I will be doing my second original book tag. It's called the Wreck Your Metalhead book tag and it's all about the different metal subgenres that exist or rock subgenres. Since I could not find anything like this, only a little bit similar things, I decided to make this tag myself because it is one of my favorite music genres. And I will now start with the questions. Question 1 is a Viking Metal, a book with dark themes running through. And I have here Darwin's Hofever, or in English Darwin's Dream Pond, by Thijs Goldschmidt. This is a combination of a non-fiction and a fictional work about the theory of evolution. The fictional part is talking about the culture of the people living around Lake Victoria in Africa, and the non-fictional work about the biological research this author did as a PhD student in the lake to look at the generation and dying out of different species of, I believe, tilapia, but I have to reread this one to know for sure. I still know I really liked it though, so I would recommend you read it, especially if you are into science. And yeah, so I love this. The second question is folk metal. The folk is real, or talk about a retelling. In my case, I will talk again about the Stummkönige trilogy written by Kai Meijer. It's a shame it, as far as I know, has not been translated into English. But I read it in German and I really loved it so much. This 1001 Nights retelling has a very creative undertone. And if you understand German in a level of like a 16-year-old, I think you could read this properly. If you are learning German, I definitely encourage you to go on so you can read the books of this writer, because until now I have liked every single one of them I read, either in Dutch or German. So yeah, as I said, this is 1001 Nights retelling, and it's mainly talking about traveling through the desert to save the people in the city where they live from the genies, because the genies seem inclined to attack their world. And it's already starts with like a very exciting flying carpet race. So yes, those people do illegal flying carpet races, which was really nice to read at the start of the book. It has great character development in all three books, and it is a little bit more adult than most of the YA I read so far. That's not to say that I read a lot of YA, because that's just not the case. I normally don't really like it, but these ones I did really love. So, totally recommend. The next question is about Celtic Metal, and it is all those runes. Talk about a character who uses runes in the book. He is the main character or a side character, and I chose Quoth from the Kingkiller Chronicle, because obviously he learns how to use runes in a protective way so he can work on metal and make something that is like protective for everybody who travels, and he makes it so that everybody can actually afford it, or most people can, which I found a really nice thing. And even though the runes are not very deeply described, I still like the fact that Quoth works with them. So yeah. The next question is a question about medieval rock and metal, and says, king or queen, a fantasy king or queen. This can be a book or a character, and it is just a book that you really loved or really enjoyed. And I chose The Night Circus by Aaron Morgenstern. I realize now I could have better picked this for another question, but I'll keep it at this one. The atmosphere in this book and the magic in this book, the well-crafted world, I really enjoyed it. I just recently finished it. It will also be in my next wrap-up if I am right, if this video goes up at the right day. This will be in my March wrap-up. And maybe I will film a review still to share my opinions on this book. Yeah, I really love this one. And we'll go on to the next question. The next question will be about Gothic Metal, a book with a dark atmosphere, a depressed, down or pessimistic main character. And I chose Noodlot by Louis Couperus because this has a depressed couple, so a couple with major depressive disorder as main characters, and they plan to commit suicide together. It is written in between 1863 and 1923, so it is a decently old book. I don't know if it is translated, but I know it left a really big impression on me in high school, and I know I want to reread it. And since it is so tiny, it should be possible to do that this year, and I hope it will leave the same impression it did about 6 years ago, since I still remember what it is about and the feeling that it left me with. I think it's all good. The next question will be speed metal, and is it speed metal, an incredibly fast-paced book, and I chose The Obsidian Throne by J.D. Oswald. This is the 5th book in one of my now all-time favorite fantasy series, and you're not sitting still. I know some people say that the last book in the Shades of Magic trilogy is just fast-paced, but even more happens in this one. I really loved it. I like the way this book is wrapped up. I love the way almost all characters were left off at the end of this book. And for one time, this is the best epilogue I ever read in a book. So, if you like dragons, if you like high fantasy, and a magic system based on something that's akin to ley lines, I definitely recommend you to read this 5-book series. The first one is called Dreamwalker, and I will go on now with the next genre, which is a new wave. And the question is, a book on acid or a book that creates transcendent atmosphere? I could have chosen The Night Circus for this one, but I chose for this one Buitenstanders by Renate Dorrestein. This is a very strange book in which a couple that's trying to get on holiday by car ends up in a house somewhere in the middle of nowhere where 3 or 4 people, all females, are living. This writer is incredibly feministic, by the way. But those people end up in that house, and it turns out that the people who are living there have psychiatric disorders. But they seem very smart if you read about them. They are very smart, but they have psychiatric disorders and they have a lot of problems. And during the story, during the book, you see things happening and they left me shocked. But also, it made this book one of my all-time faves. I have read it several times and I still love it. And this year will be the time I think that I will try and reread this one. As far as I know, and I have actually tried to look it up, this one has also not been translated into English, which I find a shame because this is like one of my all-time favorite books. And I would grant everybody a chance to read this one. And I will now go on with the next question, which is symphonic metal. And goes about a character that's totally in sync with him or herself, and I go for the biologist in Annihilation because she is very introverted, but she seems to know herself very well. I have not finished this book yet. I'm around page 100. I got stuck and started reading something else. But the whole concept of this book, as well as the main character, it all intrigues me. And I liked it until where I read it. So I will be probably finishing this before the end of the month. And at least I hope so. And then I can give my opinions on the whole book instead of half of it. Now, we have question 9, which is pop rock, a contemporary that rocked. And I'm going for Susanna Kersley's Named of the Dragon, which takes place in Wales and talks about is a story about someone, a literary agent who goes on holiday with one of her authors and talks well, they go on holiday and strange things happen. It's still a contemporary. She starts getting worse and worse nightmares, and she doesn't understand where it comes from, but it turns out that someone in her vicinity dreams the same things, and then their paths intertwine. Yeah, I really like this one. Not as much as some of the other books on this pile, but it's definitely, in my opinion, worth a read if you like, or would like to read something else as just a standard contemporary romance, because this includes romance, but it's more of a lot of flirting than actual romance, which I really appreciated because I'm normally not that much into romantic books. And the final question, which is classic rock, a book or a book series that creates nostalgic feelings in you, and I chose this one. This is Op zoek naar dolfijnen, the Dutch version of the English book series The Dolphin Diaries, with Lucy Daniels. That's a pseudonym for another writer I don't know the name of. But recently I finally read the last book in the series, and I still got back to the feelings of 10-year-old me who read these books for the first time and really enjoyed them. So these are my picks. I want to reread them soon, and this is it. I will link for all the music genres I mentioned some of the songs below, so you can look them up. Divided by genre, of course. And this is it for now. On tot de keer!